He saved the life of a disabled blind princess. Now her father says they should bond. Commander Marcus? Chen adjusted his formal uniform and looked at the massive underwater palace before him. The crystal walls glowed with soft blue light, and schools of colorful fish swam between the towers. This was his first time visiting the Zephrian Empire, and he had to admit it was beautiful. "Remember, Marcus," said Dr. Sarah Kim, his second-in-command, "the Zephrians value tradition above everything. Don't speak unless the Emperor speaks to you first." Marcus nodded. His team of 5 humans had traveled 3 months to reach this water world. They needed the rare crystals that grew in Zephrian oceans. These crystals could power human ships for years without running out. But these Zephrians were proud people who did not trust outsiders easily. The palace guards led them. Through long hallways filled with flowing water, Marcus watched the Zephrians swim gracefully through special tubes in the walls. Their blue-green skins sparkled, and their large eyes could see perfectly in the dim underwater light. They moved like dancers, smooth and elegant. "The Emperor will see you now," announced a tall guard with silver markings on his arms. The throne room was enormous. Emperor Thalassos sat on a chair made from black coral, surrounded by his advisors. His deep voice echoed through the water-filled chamber as he welcomed the human visitors. "We greet the people of Earth," the Emperor said formally. "You come seeking our sacred crystals. Tell us why we should share them with you." Marcus stepped forward carefully. "Your Majesty, humans and Zephrians could help each other greatly. We offer advanced farming technology and medical knowledge in exchange for crystal mining rights." The Emperor's large eyes studied Marcus for a long moment. "Perhaps, but first, you must understand our ways. Tonight, you will join our celebration feast." The formal reception took place in the palace's grand hall. Hundreds of Zephrian nobles floated elegantly through the water-filled space, their formal robes flowing like sea plants. Marcus and his team wore special breathing masks that let them speak and eat underwater. Marcus noticed that one corner of the hall remained empty. When he asked about it, a young noble looked uncomfortable. "That area is reserved," the noble said quietly. "It is where Princess Lerole usually sits, but she rarely comes to public events." "The princess?" Marcus asked. "The Emperor's daughter. She is different from us. She cannot see, and she moves with difficulty. It brings shame to some families when their children are born this way." Marcus frowned. On Earth, people with disabilities were valued members of society. Many of humanity's greatest scientists and leaders had overcome physical challenges, but he said nothing, remembering Dr. Kim's warning about respecting Zephrian customs. As the evening continued, Marcus learned about Zephrian culture. They prized physical perfection and graceful movement above all else. Their society had strict rules about who could hold important positions, and these rules seemed to exclude anyone who was different. Near the end of the feast, Emperor Thalassos announced that guests could visit the palace's famous memorial gardens. "These gardens honor our greatest warriors," he explained. "Ancient technology protects the sacred spaces." Marcus followed the other guests toward the gardens, but he paused when he saw a lone figure moving slowly through a side passage. It was a young Zephrian woman using a special device to help her walk. Her movements were careful but determined. Unlike the other Zephrians, her eyes were clouded white, showing that she could not see. This had to be Princess Lerole. The princess moved toward the memorial gardens through a different entrance, one that seemed less crowded. Marcus wondered if she preferred quiet spaces away from the judgment of others. Suddenly, bright red lights began flashing throughout the palace. A loud alarm echoed through the water, and Marcus felt the building shake slightly. "Solar storm detected," announced a mechanical voice. "Memorial Garden defense systems activating. All visitors must evacuate immediately." Panic spread through the palace as nobles rushed toward the exits. Guards swam quickly through the hallways, shouting orders. Marcus saw Dr. Kim and his team moving with the crowd toward safety. But then he remembered Princess Lerole. She had been heading toward the gardens alone. Marcus pushed against the flow of evacuating people and reached the garden entrance. What he saw made his blood run cold. Bright energy barriers had activated throughout the memorial space, creating a deadly maze of crackling force fields. The barriers moved and shifted every few seconds, making escape nearly impossible. In the center of the maze, Princess Lerole stood, trapped on a small platform. Her mobility device had been damaged by the energy surge, and she could not move quickly enough to avoid the shifting barriers. Worse, Marcus could see that her breathing mask was starting to fail, showing red warning lights. "Princess," shouted Captain Vex, the head of palace security, "we are coming to help you." But when the guards tried to enter the maze, the barriers blocked their path. The energy field seemed to sense their bioelectric signatures and moved to stop them. Each time a Zephrian approached, new barriers appeared, making the maze even more dangerous. "The system is responding to our natural electrical fields," Captain Vex said in frustration. "It was designed to keep enemies out, but now it won't let us in either." Marcus studied the moving barriers carefully. As a human military officer, he had trained in pattern recognition and tactical analysis. His mind automatically began mapping the three-dimensional puzzle before him. The barriers moved in sequences, like a code. They weren't random. They followed mathematical patterns that repeated every 30 seconds. Marcus realized something important. The defense system was designed for Zephrian bioelectrics, not human ones. "I'm going in," Marcus announced. "Are you insane?" Captain Vex grabbed his arm. "Those barriers will kill you instantly." "Maybe not," Marcus said, removing the captain's hand gently but firmly. "Human neural patterns are different from yours. The system might not recognize me as a threat." Before anyone could stop him, Marcus stepped toward the nearest barrier.
Right.
The energy field flickered slightly as he approached, seeming confused by his alien bioelectric signature. Taking a deep breath, Marcus stepped through. The barrier held, allowing him to pass. Using his training in three-dimensional navigation, Marcus began moving through the maze, counted the seconds between barrier shifts, memorized the patterns, and planned his route 3 moves ahead. Skills that humans had developed through millions of years of hunting and survival guided him through the deadly puzzle. Behind him, he heard Captain Vex speaking into his communicator. "The human is inside the maze. He's actually navigating it successfully." Marcus reached Princess Lerole just as her breathing system gave its final warning beep. Without hesitation, he shared his own air supply and lifted her carefully in his arms. "Hold on, Princess," he said. "We're getting out of here." The return journey was more difficult with Princess Lerole's weight, but Marcus had memorized the safe path. Step by step, he carried her through the shifting energy barriers toward safety. When they finally emerged from the maze, the gathered crowd erupted in amazed whispers. Captain Vex and his guards stared at Marcus with new respect. "Impossible," whispered one noble. "No one can navigate the ancient defenses." Princess Lerole looked up at Marcus with her clouded eyes and smiled. "Thank you," she said softly. "You move differently than others, like you see patterns where we see only chaos." Marcus smiled back. "Sometimes being different is exactly what you need." The medical bay of the Zephrian palace was quiet and peaceful. Soft blue lights moved across the walls like gentle waves, and the sound of flowing water created a calming atmosphere. Princess Lerole lay on a treatment bed while medical devices checked her health. Her breathing was steady now. The color had returned to her blue-green skin. Marcus sat in a chair nearby, his arm wrapped in healing bandages where the energy barriers had burned him. The palace doctors had been amazed that a human could survive contact with their ancient defense systems. They kept asking him questions about human biology that he could not answer. "You are still here, Princess," Lerole said softly, turning her head toward his voice. "And I wanted to make sure you were." "Okay," Marcus replied. "How are you feeling?" "Much better, thanks to you." She paused for a moment. "Tell me something, Commander Chen. How did you see the patterns in the maze?" Captain Vex said it was impossible. Marcus thought carefully about his answer. "On Earth, humans developed differently than your people. We lived on land, not in water. We had to hunt animals and find our way through forests and mountains. Over thousands of years, our brains learned to recognize patterns and navigate in 3 dimensions. Fascinating, Lerole said, sitting up with interest. Your species adapted to survive in a completely different environment. That must have created unique abilities. I suppose it did. But you have abilities too, Princess. I noticed that you knew exactly where the platform was in the garden maze, even though you couldn't see it. Lerole smiled sadly. My people do not consider my adaptations to be abilities. They see them as poor substitutes for normal senses. What kind of adaptations? Marcus asked gently. The princess hesitated, then began to speak. I can hear things. Others cannot. Water carries vibrations differently when objects move through it. I can sense the size and shape of rooms by how sound echoes. I can tell when someone is nervous because their heartbeat changes the water pressure around them. Marcus leaned forward with genuine interest. That's incredible. You can basically see with sound and vibration. You really think so? Lerole asked, surprise in her voice. Absolutely. On Earth, we have developed technologies that work the same way. We call it sonar, using sound waves to map our surroundings. Ships use it to navigate underwater. Some humans who cannot see learn to use clicking sounds to understand their environment, just like you do naturally. For the first time since Marcus had met her, Princess Lerole's face lit up with excitement. You mean there are humans who experience the world like I do? Many of them? Some of our greatest thinkers and inventors had physical challenges to overcome. We believe that different perspectives make us stronger as a species. Different perspectives, Lerole repeated thoughtfully. I've never heard anyone say that before. The medical bay doors opened with a soft sound, and Captain Vex entered, followed by several palace guards. Behind them came a figure that made everyone in the room bow their heads respectfully. Emperor Thalsos was even more impressive up close. His silver crown caught the blue light, and his formal robes flowed around him like ocean currents. His large eyes fixed on Marcus with an expression that was difficult to read. Commander Chen, the Emperor said in his deep voice, you have done something today that our finest warriors could not accomplish. Marcus stood and bowed politely. I was glad to help, Your Majesty. My daughter's life is precious to me, the Emperor continued. But Marcus noticed that he did not look at Princess Lerole as he spoke. You have earned the gratitude of the Zephrian Empire. Father, Princess Lerole said quietly. The Emperor's expression became formal and distant. Lerole, I am pleased that you are safe. You should not have gone to the gardens alone. I wanted to honor our ancestors, just like everyone else, she replied, her voice becoming smaller. The memorial gardens are not safe for someone with your limitations, the Emperor said firmly. You must be more careful in the future. Marcus watched this exchange with growing discomfort. The Emperor spoke to his daughter like she was a fragile object, not a person. There was no warmth or affection in his voice, only duty and worry. Your Majesty, Marcus said carefully, Princess Lerole showed remarkable courage today. She navigated to the center of the garden complex entirely on her own. The Emperor looked surprised. She did? Yes, sir. And she has been explaining to me how she uses sound and vibration to understand her environment. It's quite sophisticated. Emperor Thalossos glanced at his daughter with what might have been curiosity, but quickly looked away again. Lerole has always been creative in her methods. On Earth, we would call it adaptive intelligence, Marcus said. Some of our most successful explorers and scientists develop similar techniques. Really? Princess Lerole asked eagerly. Can you tell me more about these techniques? Marcus looked at the Emperor, who nodded slightly. Well, there are ways to use sound. More effectively, you could practice making small clicking sounds with your tongue and listening to how they echo. Different materials and distances create different echo patterns. Like this. Lerole made a soft clicking sound and tilted her head, listening. Exactly. Now, what can you tell about this room from that sound? Lerole was quiet for a moment. Concentrating, the ceiling is high, about 4 meters. The walls are made of coral stone, not metal. There are 6 people in the room, and someone new is standing by the door. Everyone turned to see Dr. Kim entering the medical bay. Marcus grinned. Perfect. You identified the room dimensions, material composition, and number of people. That's better than most human sonar equipment. Truly? Lerole asked, her voice filled with wonder. Absolutely. With some practice, you could probably map entire buildings this way. Emperor Thalsos watched this demonstration with growing interest. His daughter was more animated than he had seen her in years. She was asking intelligent questions and learning new concepts with impressive speed. Show me more, Lerole said excitedly. Marcus spent the next hour teaching her various techniques humans had developed for spatial awareness. He showed her how to use her hands to sense air currents that revealed doorways and obstacles. He explained how different surfaces reflect sound differently, and how she could use this information to identify materials and distances. Princess, Lerole absorbed everything quickly and began improving on his methods within minutes. She discovered that underwater, her natural Zephrian senses could detect vibrations that humans could never perceive. This is amazing, she said. I never realized that my differences could be advantages. Every challenge creates opportunities, Marcus replied. The key is finding the right environment and support. Emperor Thalsos had been watching silently throughout the lesson. As the session ended, he approached his daughter. Lerole, he said quietly. I did not know you had developed such skills. I tried to tell you before, father, she replied softly. But the court advisors said it was not important. The emperor looked uncomfortable. Perhaps I should have listened more carefully. Marcus sensed that this was a private family moment and began to move toward the door. But Emperor Thalsos stopped him. Commander Chen, I would like to speak with you privately later this evening. There are matters we should discuss, of course, Your Majesty. As Marcus left the medical bay, he heard Princess Lerole practicing the clicking techniques he had taught her. Her laughter echoed through the hallway, a sound full of joy and discovery. Dr. Kim fell into step beside him. You're making quite an impression on the royal family, she observed. I'm just sharing some basic human knowledge, Marcus replied. Knowledge that might change how they see disability forever, Dr. Kim said thoughtfully. That could have bigger implications than our crystal mining negotiations. Marcus nodded, already beginning to understand that his mission to the Zephrian Empire was becoming much more complicated than anyone had expected. That evening, as he prepared for his meeting with the Emperor, Marcus wondered what kind of private conversation awaited him. Something told him that saving Princess Lerole's life was only the beginning of his involvement with the Zephrian royal family. 3 days had passed since the incident in the Memorial Gardens, and Marcus found himself visiting Princess Lerole every afternoon. The diplomatic negotiations between humans and Zephrians had reached a difficult point, with both sides struggling to understand each other's perspectives on trade agreements. Your advisors are frustrated with us, Marcus told Dr. Kim during their morning briefing. They say we ask too many questions about workers' rights and safety protocols. And their advisors think we're being unreasonable, Dr. Kim replied. They don't understand why we care about how crystal miners are treated, as long as we get our materials. Marcus shook his head. This was exactly the kind of cultural misunderstanding that made diplomatic missions so challenging. Humans valued the welfare of individuals, while Zephrian society focused more on efficiency and tradition. After the morning meetings, Marcus made his way to the palace library where Princess Lerole spent most of her time. The library was a vast underwater space filled with floating crystal tablets that contained thousands of years of Zephrian knowledge. Marcus, Lerole called out as he entered. She had become much more confident over the past few days, using the navigation techniques he had taught her to move around the library independently. Good afternoon, Princess. What are you working on today? I want to show you something, she said excitedly, swimming over to a workstation covered with mathematical symbols. I've been thinking about what you said regarding human technology that helps people with different abilities. Marcus looked at the complex equations floating in the water before him. Even though he couldn't read Zephrian mathematics, he could see that the work was incredibly sophisticated. These are beautiful calculations, he said. What do they represent? Dimensional space theory, Lerole explained. I've been working on these equations for 2 years. They show how energy can be channeled through multiple dimensions to create more efficient power systems. Marcus studied the formulas more carefully. His engineering background helped him recognize some of the mathematical concepts, even if he couldn't read the Zephrian symbols. This looks like you're describing a way to fold space-time to reduce energy loss, he said slowly. Is that right? Lerole's eyes widened with excitement. Yes, exactly. You understand it, Princess. This is brilliant work. Have you shown these theories to the palace scientists? Lerole's expression became sad. I tried once last year. But they said that someone with my limitations could not possibly understand advanced mathematics. They looked at my work for only a few minutes before dismissing it. Marcus felt anger rising in his chest. On Earth, mathematical genius was recognized, regardless of a person's physical abilities. Some of humanity's greatest mathematicians had overcome significant challenges to make their discoveries. Would you like to explain your theories to me? Marcus asked gently. I may not understand all the mathematics, but I'd love to learn about your ideas. For the next 2 hours, Princess Lerole walked Marcus through her dimensional space theories. Her explanations were clear and logical, showing deep understanding of complex physical principles. As she spoke, Marcus began to realize that her work could solve some of the energy efficiency problems that plagued both human and Zephrian technology. Princess, these ideas could change everything, Marcus said when she finished. Your theories could make space travel faster and more efficient. They could provide clean energy for entire planets. Do you really think so? Lerole asked hopefully. I'm certain of it. But I think we need to present your work differently. On Earth, we've learned that sometimes brilliant ideas need the right packaging to be accepted. Over the following days, Marcus and Princess Lerole worked together to refine her theories. Marcus contributed his knowledge of human engineering principles, while Lerole provided the mathematical foundation. Their collaboration produced new insights that neither could have achieved alone. Marcus showed Lerole how humans approached problem-solving through breaking complex issues into smaller parts. Lerole taught Marcus about Zephrian mathematical concepts that described water flow and energy movement in ways that human science had never considered. Your people think very differently than mine, Lerole observed during one of their work sessions. Humans seem to question everything and look for new solutions. Zephrians prefer to follow established methods. Both approaches have value, Marcus replied. But sometimes combining different perspectives creates something entirely new. Their joint work resulted in a revolutionary energy theory that could reduce power consumption by 60% while increasing output. Marcus was excited about the possibilities, but he insisted that all credit should go to Princess Lerole. Marcus, I want you to present our findings to the court scientists, Lerole said one afternoon. Why me? These are your discoveries. Because they will listen to you, your respected human commander. I'm just ... me. Marcus looked at her seriously. Princess, you are one of the most brilliant minds I've ever encountered. This work deserves to be recognized properly with you as the primary researcher. Despite Marcus's encouragement, Lerole remained nervous about presenting to the court. Finally, Marcus suggested a compromise. They would present the work together, with Lerole explaining the mathematical theory while Marcus discussed the practical applications. The presentation was scheduled for the following morning in the palace's main science chamber. Word spread quickly through the court that the human commander and the princess had developed new energy theories. When the time came, the science chamber was filled with Zephrian experts, court advisors, and curious nobles. Emperor Thalsos himself attended, sitting in the front row with an unreadable expression. Princess Lerole began the presentation nervously, but as she started explaining her mathematics, her confidence grew. Her voice became stronger and clearer as she described the dimensional folding concepts that made her energy theory possible. Marcus watched the audience carefully. Some scientists leaned forward with interest, clearly impressed by the mathematical elegance of Lerole's work. Others seemed skeptical, whispering among themselves. When Lerole finished her portion, Marcus presented the practical applications. He showed how her theories could be used to improve Zephrian technology and solve energy problems throughout the Empire. The audience applauded politely when the presentation ended. But Marcus noticed that their attention seemed focused on him rather than Princess Lerole. Dr. Nexus, the chief court scientist, stood to respond. Commander Chen, this is impressive work. Your human engineering perspective has created interesting possibilities for our technology. Thank you, Marcus began. But I must clarify that we would be interested in collaborating further with human scientists on these energy concepts. Dr. Nexus continued, completely ignoring Princess Lerole. Perhaps you could return to Earth and bring back a research team. Marcus felt his anger building. Dr. Nexus, I think there's been a misunderstanding. The mathematical foundation of this work was developed entirely by Princess Lerole. I simply provided some engineering perspective on applications. The court scientists looked dismissive. Commander, while I'm sure the princess contributed some basic calculations, this level of theoretical physics requires years of advanced training. Princess Lerole has that training and more, Marcus said firmly. She has been working on these theories for 2 years completely independently. Every major breakthrough came from her mathematical insights. That's quite impossible, another scientist said. These concepts require spatial reasoning abilities that ... certain individuals simply do not possess. Marcus stood up, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. I refuse to accept any recognition for Princess Lerole's work. Furthermore, any future collaboration between humans and Zephrians on this technology will require that Princess Lerole be acknowledged as the primary researcher and theory developer. The chamber fell completely silent. Several nobles looked shocked that Marcus would challenge the court scientists so directly. Emperor Thalsos stood slowly, his expression thoughtful. Commander Chen, are you saying that my daughter developed these theories without assistance? Yes, Your Majesty. I provided minor engineering input, but the mathematical brilliance is entirely Princess Lerole's achievement. The Emperor looked at his daughter, who sat quietly with tears in her eyes. For the first time in the presentation, he seemed to really see her. Lerole, he said softly, is this true? Yes, father, she whispered. I've been trying to tell you about my work for years. The silence stretched longer. Marcus realized that this moment would determine not just Princess Lerole's future, but possibly the entire relationship between their two species. Finally, Emperor Thalossos spoke. It appears we have much to discuss. That evening, Emperor Thalossos requested a private meeting with Marcus in his personal study. The room was smaller than the throne chamber, filled with ancient books and scientific instruments. Soft lights created a peaceful atmosphere, but Marcus could sense the tension in the air. Please sit, the Emperor said, gesturing to a comfortable chair across from his desk. His formal manner seemed different now, more personal and less royal. Marcus sat down carefully, unsure what to expect from this conversation. Commander Chen, the Emperor began slowly. Today you showed me something I had been blind to for many years. My daughter's intelligence and capabilities. Your Majesty, Princess Lerole is remarkable. Any father would be proud of her achievements. Emperor Thalossos looked out the window at the flowing water gardens beyond. I fear I have not been a good father to her. When Lerole was born with her, ... differences. The court advisors told me she would never be able to contribute to our society in meaningful ways. Marcus remained quiet, letting the Emperor speak. In Zephrian culture, we value physical perfection and grace above all else. A ruler must be strong, quick, and able to navigate our underwater cities with ease. Lerole's blindness and mobility. Challenges made the court believe she could never lead. But leadership isn't just about physical abilities, Marcus said gently. On Earth, we've had many great leaders who overcame physical challenges. What matters is intelligence, wisdom, and the ability to make good decisions. Yes, the Emperor said, turning back to Marcus. I am beginning to understand this. Watching you work with Lerole these past days has opened my eyes. You treat her as an equal, not as someone to be pitied or protected, because that's what she is, an equal. Her mind is one of the sharpest I've ever encountered. Emperor Thalossos studied Marcus for a long moment. Tell me about human relationships, Commander. How do your people choose life partners? The sudden change of topic surprised Marcus. Well, Your Majesty, humans usually choose partners based on compatibility, shared interests, mutual respect, and emotional connection. We value intellectual partnerships as much as physical attraction. And humans with disabilities, they form normal relationships. Of course. Physical differences don't prevent people from forming deep, meaningful bonds. Some of our happiest couples include partners with various abilities and challenges. The Emperor nodded thoughtfully. This is very different from our ways. In Zephrian society, marriages are usually arranged based on social status and physical compatibility. Love, as you call it, is considered secondary. Marcus was beginning to wonder where this conversation was leading. Commander Chen, I must be honest with you about my greatest fear, the Emperor continued, his voice becoming heavy with emotion. I am getting old. Someday I will no longer be here to protect Lerole in our current society. She has no prospects for marriage or leadership. She would be alone and vulnerable. Surely there are options for her future, Marcus said. Very few, the Emperor replied sadly. Most noble families would consider it shameful to marry their sons to someone with her limitations. And without a strong partner, she could never hope to hold any position of authority. The Emperor stood and began pacing slowly around the room. But then you came, Commander. You saved her life, recognized her brilliance, and treated her with respect that even I had failed to show. I have watched the two of you work together, and I see something I never expected.
Ow.
What do you see, Your Majesty? I see two minds that complement each other perfectly. I see my daughter happier and more confident than she has ever been, and I see a man who values her for who she truly is. Marcus felt his heart racing as he began to understand where this conversation was heading. Commander Chen, the Emperor, said, stopping his pacing and looking directly at Marcus, I want to make you an offer. A formal bonding ceremony between you and Princess Lerole. The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. He stared at the Emperor in shock, unable to speak. For several moments, Your Majesty, This is very unexpected. I know it seems sudden, the Emperor said, sitting back down. But this would not be just a marriage. It would be a political alliance that would give Lerole the status and protection she needs. As your bonded partner, she would have the authority to pursue her scientific research and be recognized for her contributions. Marcus's mind raced with the implications. Marriage to Princess Lerole would change everything, not just for him personally, but for the relationship between humans and Zephrians. What would this mean exactly? Marcus asked. You would become heir to the technology development sectors of our empire. Together, you and Lerole would lead our scientific advancement programs. Your human perspective combined with her mathematical genius could transform our entire civilization. The Emperor leaned forward earnestly. Commander, I have observed how you interact with my daughter. There is genuine care and respect between you. Could this professional partnership perhaps grow into something more personal over time? Marcus thought about the past week he had spent with Princess Lerole. Their intellectual collaboration had been unlike anything he had experienced before. She challenged his thinking, inspired him with her insights, and made him see the universe from entirely new perspectives. But there was more than just intellectual attraction. He'd come to care deeply about her happiness and well-being. He admired her courage, her curiosity, and her determination to overcome the limitations others placed on her. Your Majesty, Marcus said slowly, I need to be completely honest with you. I have developed strong feelings for Princess Lerole. She is extraordinary in every way. But a decision this important cannot be made by me alone, of course. Lerole must agree as well. And there will be political complications, Marcus continued. My government will have concerns about such a close alliance. Some Zephrian nobles will oppose this arrangement. I am prepared to face that opposition, Emperor said firmly. But I believe this alliance could benefit both our peoples greatly. Your human values of inclusion and innovation could help us become a better society. Marcus stood up, feeling the weight of the decision before him. I need time to think about this, Your Majesty, and I need to speak with Princess Lerole privately. Naturally, take all the time you need. As Marcus turned to leave, the Emperor called his name. Commander Chen, there is one more thing you should know. This proposal is not just about politics or convenience. I have seen how my daughter looks. At you, I believe her feelings may match your own. Marcus felt his heart skip a beat. What do you mean? Lerole has never shown interest in any potential suitor before. But with you, she smiles differently. She speaks with passion about your conversations. She has found in you something I could never give her, someone who sees her true worth. That night, Marcus walked through the palace gardens, his mind spinning with everything the Emperor had told him. The idea of marrying Princess Lerole filled him with both excitement and terror. He cared for her deeply, but marriage would mean leaving his old life behind completely. It would mean taking on enormous responsibilities in a foreign culture. It would mean facing opposition from both human and Zephrian officials who might see the alliance as dangerous. It would also mean spending his life with the most remarkable woman he had ever met. It would mean helping her achieve the recognition she deserved and working together to bridge two worlds. As he considered his options, Marcus realized that his decision would affect not just his own future, but the future of human-Zephrian relations for generations to come. Tomorrow, he would have to speak with Princess Lerole and discover how she felt about her father's proposal. The conversation would determine the course of both their lives. The next morning, Marcus found Princess Lerole in her favorite spot in the palace library. She was working on new mathematical equations, her fingers moving gracefully through the floating crystal displays. When she heard him approach, she turned. With a bright smile, Marcus, "Oh, I've been thinking about our energy theories all night. I believe I've found a way to make the power transfer even more efficient." "That's wonderful, Lerole," Marcus said, sitting down beside her. "But first, I need to talk to you about something important." She noticed the serious tone in his voice and gave him her full attention. "What is it?" Marcus took a deep breath. "Your father spoke with me last night, made a proposal about our future." "What kind of proposal?" Lerole asked, though something in her voice suggested she might already know. "He suggested a formal bonding ceremony between us, marriage. That would also be a political alliance." Lerole was quiet for a long moment, her clouded eyes focused on something Marcus could not see. "And what did you tell him?" "Told him that I needed to speak with you first." "Lerole, this decision affects your life more than anyone else's. How do you feel about this idea?" Princess Lerole's cheeks turned a deeper shade of blue-green. "Marcus, I must confess something to you. Over these past days, working with you, learning from you, I have developed feelings that I never expected to have." Marcus felt his heart racing. "What kind of feelings?" "You make me feel valued and respected in ways I'd never have before. When you look at me, you see my mind and my abilities, not my limitations. You make me believe that I could actually accomplish great things." "You can accomplish great things, Lerole. You already have." She reached out and found his hand. "But more than that, Marcus, I think I am falling in love with you." Marcus squeezed her hand gently. "I'm falling in love with you too, Lerole. You're the most brilliant, brave, and beautiful person I've ever known." "Then you'll accept my father's proposal? If you want me to, yes. But we both know this won't be easy. There will be people on both sides who oppose this alliance." As if summoned by his words, Dr. Kim burst into the library with several human diplomats behind her. "Marcus," she called out urgently, "we need to talk immediately." Marcus and Princess Lerole followed the group to a private meeting room where Dr. Kim paced nervously. "Marcus, what is this I hear about a marriage proposal from the Emperor?" Dr. Kim demanded. "It's true. Emperor Thalasos has suggested a bonding ceremony between Princess Lerole and myself." "Are you insane?" one of the diplomats exclaimed. "This could complicate our entire diplomatic mission. Earth Command will never approve of such a personal entanglement." "This isn't just personal," Marcus replied firmly. "This alliance could change everything between our species. Princess Lerole's scientific discoveries could benefit all of humanity." "But Marcus," Dr. Kim said more gently, "marriage to alien royalty means you could never return to Earth as a normal citizen. You would become part of their government." "I understand the implications," Marcus said, "but I believe this is the right choice, both personally and professionally." Meanwhile, in another part of the palace, Emperor Thalasos was facing his own opposition. The court nobles had gathered in an emergency session to protest his decision. "Your Majesty," Dr. Nexus said angrily, "allowing your daughter to bond with an alien is unthinkable. It goes against all our traditions." "Traditions have failed, my daughter. the Emperor replied calmly. This human has shown her more respect in 1 week than our entire court has shown in years. But the bloodline, Your Majesty? The royal family must remain pure Zephrian? The royal family must remain strong and intelligent, the Emperor corrected. Commander Chen has proven both qualities. My daughter's happiness matters more to me than ancient prejudices. Captain Vex, who had remained silent during the debate, finally spoke up. Your Majesty, I have observed Commander Chen carefully since his arrival. He risked his life to save Princess Lerole without expecting any reward. He refused to take credit for her scientific work when it would have benefited him. He has shown honor and integrity that would be admirable in any species. Thank you, Captain, the Emperor said. I value your opinion. The debate continued for hours, but Emperor Thalasos remained firm in his decision. When the nobles realized they could not change his mind, they began to leave the chamber in frustration. 3 days later, preparations began for the bonding ceremony. Despite the opposition, many Zephrians had become curious about the unusual alliance. Princess Lerole's scientific presentation had impressed more people than Marcus had realized, and word of her intelligence was spreading throughout the empire. On the morning of the ceremony, Marcus stood in the palace's great hall, wearing formal Zephrian robes that had been specially adapted for human physiology. The hall was filled with representatives from both species, though some attended reluctantly. Princess Lerole entered the hall, accompanied by her father. She wore a flowing gown that sparkled like starlight, and her confidence was unmistakable. The woman who had once hidden in empty corners now moved proudly through the center of attention. Emperor Thalsos performed the ancient bonding ritual, but he added new words that had never been spoken before in Zephrian history. Today we celebrate not just the union of two individuals, but the joining of two peoples who can learn from each other, he announced. This bond represents our commitment to value intelligence and character above physical perfection. When the ceremony concluded, Princess Lerole and Marcus were officially recognized as co-leaders of the Empire's technology development programs. Their first joint announcement shocked the assembled crowd. We are establishing the Zephrian Empire's first inclusive science initiative, Lerole declared, her voice carrying clearly through the hall. We will actively seek out brilliant minds from all backgrounds, regardless of physical abilities or social status. This program will prove that diversity of thought leads to stronger innovations, Marcus added. We invite anyone with scientific curiosity to contribute to our research. In the weeks that followed, the Inclusive Science Initiative attracted talented individuals who had previously been overlooked by Zephrian society. Young people with various disabilities came forward with innovative ideas that had been ignored for years. The energy efficiency theories that Marcus and Lerole had developed together were implemented throughout the empire, reducing power consumption by 50% and freeing up resources for new technological development. Dr. Kim and the human diplomatic team negotiated a new treaty that went far beyond simple crystal mining rights. The agreement established permanent scientific exchange, programs between Earth and the Zephrian Empire with both species sharing knowledge and resources. 6 months after the bonding ceremony, Princess Lerole announced her next breakthrough, a revolutionary transportation system based on dimensional folding that could reduce interstellar travel time by 80%. This time when she presented her work to the court scientists, they listened with respect and admiration. Several asked to join her research team, eager to learn from her unique mathematical insights. Emperor Thalasos watched his daughter lead the presentation with obvious pride. After the session, he approached Marcus privately. Commander Chen, I want to thank you for showing me who my daughter truly is, he said warmly. She showed herself, Your Majesty. I just provided the right environment for her to shine. Perhaps, what, you brought something to our civilization that we desperately needed, the understanding that strength comes in many forms. As Marcus looked around the science chamber, he saw young Zephrians with various physical differences working alongside their peers, their ideas valued and respected. Children who might once have been hidden away were now encouraged to pursue their interests and develop their talents. That evening, Marcus and Lerole walked together through the memorial gardens where they had first met, the ancient defense systems had been modified with Lerole's new energy theories, making the space safe and accessible for everyone. "Are you happy with your choice?" Lerole asked, her hand in his. "Every day," Marcus replied. "We're changing the galaxy, one mind. At a time, together," she said, smiling. "Together," he agreed. Above them, human and Zephrian ships worked side by side, building a new space station that would serve as a permanent research facility for both species. The alliance that had begun with one human's refusal to accept limitations had grown into a partnership that would benefit countless worlds. In the end, Marcus realized that the greatest human strength was not their pattern recognition or tactical thinking, but their ability to see potential where others saw only problems, and to fight for the value of every individual mind in the universe.